If you could please give your attention to the emergency evacuation procedures.
Before we get started, let me read the emergency evacuation procedures. In the event of an emergency evacuation, an alarm will sound. Everyone should exit the building by way of the nearest stairwell in a safe and effective manner. If the nearest stairwell is blocked by smoke, use the other stairwell. Do not use the elevator. Once you have reached the main floor, follow the exit signs to exit the building and quickly proceed away from the building. Please be mindful of others evacuating and of emergency vehicles.
Commission will now come to order. Please register your presence by voting yes.
Mr. Chairman, you do have a quorum. There are 17 present.
17 present, 4 absent. Commissioner Carter has a scheduling conflict. I've heard from no other members. Madam Clerk, if you'll please read the call. A special meeting is published in the newspaper of general circulation on November the 11th, 2016.
Call for a special called meeting of the Blount County Board of Commissioners to be held in room 430 at the Blount County Courthouse, Court Street, Maryville, Tennessee on Thursday, November 17th, 2016 at 6 p.m. I, Mayor Ed Mitchell, pursuant to and in accordance with the authority vested in me by TCA 5-5-105, hereby call the Board of County Commissioners of Blount County, Tennessee for a called meeting on the 17th day of November 2016, 6 p.m. for the following. For approval of a resolution 16-11-009 authorizing amendments to the general obligation refunding bond series 2013A previously issued by Blount County, Tennessee.
Thank you, Clerk. At this time, the Chair will recognize any member of the public who would like to give public input on the call. Seeing no hands, the Chair will now entertain a motion on Resolution 16-11-009.
So moved. Second.
Commissioner Bennett moves to adopt. Commissioner Bennett, you move to adopt this resolution. Commissioner Carver seconds. The motion is to adopt Resolution 16-11-009. Commissioner Monroe, for what purpose do you seek the floor?
To discuss what's before us.
You have the floor.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. What we have in this 13-page packet is a request to extend the status quo, which is a variable rate bond that has 2 interest rate swaps attached to it. And we have not been given a copy of those swaps, and we've not been given a copy of the bond. I don't know how we could make a good decision without having that information in front of us. Last week, I asked our finance director why why the hospital would go through the county, and he made the statement
Point of order,
that
Mr. Chairman. Point of order. Any discussion last week?
Just a moment. Commissioner Kaler, you're recognized. Please state your point of order.
Any discussion with the finance director last week has nothing to do with the point of order right now or the mission that we're on right now.
yes, it does.
I don't agree.
Commissioners, one person will speak at a time. The chair right now has the floor. Discussion as to what items are necessary to make a decision at this time is germane, so I rule against the point of order. Commissioner Monroe, you're recognized.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. So I asked why the hospital would want to come through the county, and we were told that the county has a higher credit rating. let me back up. We were told because we have a good credit rating, and so I asked if our credit rating was better than the hospital, and he said that was generally the case, that most hospitals had a lower credit rating. So it's interesting that I contacted the chief financial officer for the hospital and ask them what their credit rating is, only to learn that they don't have a current credit rating. So we're being asked to vote on a $79 million worth of $79 million of variable rate debt with 2 interest rate swaps attached to it, without the swap agreement, without the bond, and we don't have a credit rating for the hospital. So how can we have done our due diligence in knowing how the hospital's long-term ability to pay is actually rated without a credit rating? In something else that's very alarming, in the August refinancing analysis packet that we were given, the last page said that a couple of the bullet points were that the next steps included work with possible swap counterparties to transfer the 2 swaps from Deutsche Bank, and include the state in all steps in order to accomplish an extension and transfer of the swaps. So during my conversation today with the chief financial officer, I asked about the status of those 2 swaps and was told that there weren't any banks interested in those swaps. That's another red flag. So we've been hearing about the county going to fully fixed rate financing, but if we vote to do this today, the county is not fully fixed rate financing, because this agreement is with...
Just a moment. Commissioner Bennett, are you raising a point of order?
Yes, sir, I am.
Just a moment. State your point of order.
My point of order is that we are voting simply on the approval of an extension of a mandatory purchase date, not on swaps, not on terminations. That is not germane to the approval of this resolution.
Chair rules that Commissioner Bennett is correct. Please confine your... Are you speaking for or against the resolution?
I'm against this.
Just a moment, and then I'm going to give you the floor back, but let's focus on the item before us, the extension of the loan. Commissioner Monroe, you have the floor.
The extension of the loan means that Blount County is not fully fixed rate. So think about what we have in front of us. We have a 3-year extension. Guess what happens in 3 years? We're going to be right back here doing this again, like has been done previously on other pieces of debt. So
In order.
I also ask for the amounts of the swaps and the amount that the hospital is supposed to pay and the amount that they're supposed to receive.
Commissioner, the swaps are not part of this resolution. Please speak to the resolution.
It is germane because there are other options. We are being asked to vote to continue the status quo, and when we compare the status quo to the market of what could have been, we have other options, or should have had other options. So I still have not been given the percentage of the 5-year LIBOR that we will receive, that will be received with these 2 swaps.
Chairman, you ruled on this.
Commissioner Bennett, are you raising a point of order?
Yes, I am. You have ruled that the swaps are not part of this discussion.
Thank you, Commissioner Bennett. Commissioner Monroe, I'm going to move to the next person. Commissioner Samples, you're recognized.
I'd like to ask Mr. Vineyard a question, if possible, Mr. Chairman.
Ask the chair and we'll get an answer.
I think Mr. Bennett answered this, but I want to make certain
Commissioner,
that
state your question.
I'm getting ready to state it. Is this simply an extension of the bonds that we have approved in the past that have been on record now for at least 3 years? Is this simply an extension of those with no appreciable change?
I don't believe it's an extension of the bonds, it's an extension of financing.
Of the finance,
excuse me.
Wrong terminology.
Mr. Vineyard, you're recognized.
This is an extension of the private placement that was approved 3 years ago by this body with J.P. Morgan. It calls for us to compensate them at 45 basis points, and I think that's slightly higher than currently. We're currently paying 43 basis points. When we had PFM check other banks to make sure that that was a competitive rate, we had no one else who was willing to be as competitive on their quote as J.P. Morgan.
Thank you, Mr. Vineyard. Commissioner Samples, you still have the floor, sir.
Relinquish the floor. Thank you.
Are the members ready for the question? Commissioner Monroe, you're recognized for the second time.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I would caution this body to not be so quick to jump into something. Make sure that you fully understand what you're voting on and what is before you and what you do not have before you. We should have been given the courtesy of being given the proper information before we made this decision. It's an insult to this body, and it is an insult to the taxpayers who will be on the hook for this. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Are the members ready for the question? The pending motion is to adopt Resolution 1611-009. If you're in favor of adopting the resolution, vote yes. If you're opposed to adoption, vote no.
Mr. Chairman, there are 14 yes votes and 14 no votes.
Excuse me?
4 no votes.
14 yes, 4 no. The resolution is adopted. Pursuant to TCA 55105, this special call meeting is adjourned.